Welcome back, guys. I'm going to be demonstrating how you can use torpedoes even when the friendly fire mechanic is preventing you from firing your torpedoes. So I'm going to do a demonstration of how the systems work in the game, going through some of the new systems which makes life very difficult, and then demonstrating how the torpedo friendly fire can be overridden. But make sure that you watch all the way to the end, because at the end I'll show you how to actually implement this in a battle. So there's been a lot of changes in the latest few patches that have made using torpedo boat spam incredibly difficult. So the first change, which I absolutely hate, is if you've got multiple ships selected and one of them takes damage, all of your ships reduce their speed to match the slowest ship that you've got selected. So, as you can imagine, when using torpedo boat spam, this is an absolute nightmare because it slows down all of your torpedo boats just because a single one of them got damaged. Now, another thing is if you've got all of your ships in a follow line, there's an automatic retreat system, so ships will break out of formation and join different divisions. Again, this is a nightmare for torpedo boat spam because it means that you can't use follow lines, so you can't have ships split up into individuals. And there is another reason that's made life difficult, but I can't think what it is at the moment. So one thing that I want to show you is how to override the hold fire on the friendly torpedoes. So obviously, if you've got one of your ships in the way, then the AI won't fire torpedoes because it's worried about friendly fire. Now, yeah, that makes sense, but it also counts for ships that are sinking. So if you've got a sinking ship near the enemy, then you can't fire any torpedoes at that enemy because it doesn't want you to shoot torpedoes at one of your sinking ships, which is obviously a nightmare. So I'm going to show you how to override the hold fire on the torpedoes. So obviously I can't have any of my ships selected at the moment because as soon as one of them takes damage, it'll slow everybody down. So all we're doing is just telling everybody to go in the general direction of where the enemy's going to be traveling, and then we're just going to select single ships individually to control. So I've designed the enemy battleships, which is why they're incredibly accurate. I've just remembered what the other ridiculous thing that they've changed, which has made torpedo boat spam a nightmare. If you set more than, I think it's about 5 ships in a division, then all the ships behind speed up at an incrementally increased rate. So the more ships you have in a division, the faster the ships at the back go. And if you have like 10 torpedo boats in a division, the ones at the back are going to be zipping round at like 70 knots, and it makes it completely uncontrollable. So you can't use follow lines, you can't use battle lines, and you can't use individual spam like this because you can't select ships without everybody all changing their speed to the slowest ship, so you can't drag select or have all of them selected simultaneously. You've got to literally control each one individually. So it's just made life a complete nightmare. But we've got a position here where some of our ships are blocking the friendly fire, or blocking the torpedoes because of friendly fire. So I'm going to try and demonstrate. Right, let's see if we can select these. We're going to have to deselect that one. Tell them to go in that direction. Okay, so if you press pause when you're in a good position to fire, and then unpause, it will fire your torpedoes even though there's friendly fire targets in the way. It should do anyway. Apparently, it's not currently working. I just tested it literally 2 minutes ago, and it worked fine. Interesting. It's not working, no? Ah, it's because I'm listing. So if you're listing, you can tell because your other guns aren't firing and they've got the angle status. Your torpedoes won't fire the same as your guns won't fire. So that's one reason why torpedoes don't fire sometimes, because you're listing too hard. Now you can still fire backwards and forwards. So if you turn away or towards the enemy, then it will fire eventually. Usually if you're listing though, you're going to die soon anyway. That's not going to help. Yeah, the torpedoes aren't actually pointing in the right direction. Well, we'll get a situation in a minute where we can actually perform the test. It's just going to take a while for the other ships to catch up. Right, so we might get a chance to see it working here, because obviously none of these are going to fire because of all the friendly fire in the way. So once I get a little bit further ahead, it's like now, I'm going to pause, and then unpause, and there we go, they fired. So it doesn't work every time. There we go, you saw there, they fired. but it can work. Obviously, this is not a scenario that you want to copy. This is just to demonstrate the test. But yeah, if you can't fire because of friendly fire, try just pausing and then unpausing. And then quite often, not all the time, as we've just seen, but quite often your ships will fire once you've unpaused. Right, now this is the situation that I'm talking about where I can't drag select everybody and tell them all to move into a different position because they all change the speed. But if you have the game paused when you do this, it doesn't change the speed of everybody. So if you want to drag select multiple ships where some of them are damaged and so they're going slow, make sure you pause it first before you do it. Okay, so a lot of these won't have fired, so let's see if we can turn these this way. We've got pause pressed, so they shouldn't change the speed. Looks like they're okay. So let's try unpausing. So as soon as I unpaused there, it fired some of the torpedoes. So you can just keep pausing and unpausing, and hopefully that will get ships to fire the torpedoes. As you can see, each time I'm doing it, he's firing one extra torpedo. So it's certainly not ideal. You don't really want to have to mess about doing this. But at least it is one way to kind of override the friendly fire system. So this guy would never have fired these torpedoes through this gap because of the friendly fire from in front and behind him. But because of pressing pause and unpause, they are actually firing the odd torpedo. They're not firing the entire salvo, but they are firing some torpedoes through the gap, which they wouldn't have done. Let's see if we can get torpedoes over here. So like he fired a torpedo here. Now there's no way he would have originally fired that because of these on the other side. The same with this guy here. He's fired a load of torpedoes here that have basically almost skimmed the back of this one in front of him. And it's heading towards this ship here. There's no way that this ship would have fired if we hadn't have pressed pause and unpause. So there you go. That is how you override the hold fire on the friendly fire. So I'll try and demonstrate a scenario which you might actually end up getting yourself into. So although the AI button really doesn't do what you want it to do half of the time, or more than half of the time, sometimes you might end up in a situation where you just can't control everything, and so you stick things in AI mode. Now, I recommend breaking them up into individual ships when you do this. So if you are going to put ships on AI mode, break them up into individuals. So what we're going to do is we're going to let the torpedo boats be controlled by the AI. Then we're going to watch them. And if it looks like they get into a situation where they can fire but they aren't doing because of friendly fire, we're going to pause the game and unpause it. Okay, so they're all moving into a position where they can fire now, and they aren't doing. So if we try pausing and unpausing, as you can see, they all just fired the torpedoes. So they wouldn't have fired them torpedoes if we didn't do that. So you can just keep pressing pause and unpause. Now, I don't think this torpedo boat would have fired either, because although this ship is behind him, when they're too close, they don't want to fire. So I think that was another instance there where he fired where he wouldn't have done. Let's see if any of these have still got torpedoes left. Yeah, they did. So as you saw there, they weren't firing. I press pause, unpause, suddenly they fire all the torpedoes. Okay, let's see if we can get them all to come back over in this direction. This game could really do with the Battlefleet Gothic AI mode system. So you can actually set the target distance that you want your AI ships to move into. Because obviously all of these, they're just moving away from torpedo range. You've got some of them moving close to torpedo range, but half of them are moving away. So I didn't need to do it with him because there was no one in the way. But this guy, he's not firing because the one in front of him. Oh, might be because he hasn't actually got any ammo. He might have ammo. Sometimes this doesn't update when you've got the pause button pressed, so let's have a look. Yeah, he has got ammo. So let's see if we can get him to fire. There we go. He's fired. Now, he might have fired anyway. But at least pressing the pause and unpause pretty much guarantees that he's going to fire. So there we go. There is a demonstration of how you might actually utilise this overriding the hold fire. We managed to sink 2 player-designed battleships, only losing 13 torpedo boats. So as you can see, these are 27 million. These torpedo boats are only 800,000. So we've lost 1.4 million. 1.4? 10.4 million. And we've killed 54 million. So 10.4 million losses, 54 million losses. So that is one way that you can go about using torpedo boat spam while avoiding all of the ridiculous new systems in the game. Well, I hope that was helpful, guys. Thanks for watching, take care, and I shall see you soon.